Alright, what's up everybody? I want to make a quick video on the settings I use for my GoPro footage. I've had this GoPro for actually well over a year, and I think it's taken me about that long to figure out settings that I'm actually happy with the footage. So the first things, before even touching the camera, what you need is an SD card that works well with GoPros. I know GoPros are kind of picky, and they have a list of cards online, and you need to choose one from that. I think the SanDisk Extreme Pro is probably the most common, and it's on that list, so that's what I have. And the important thing to look for is you need at least a V30 card. So the V rating is the speed of the card. There's all sorts of flash memory ratings, but the V rating is at least good enough for 4K footage. And this one is 128 gigabytes. It's crazy how cheap you can get them these days. You can get like 1 terabyte cards for $150 or something. But 120 gig is good enough for 2 crits in a weekend, or at least 2 hours of 4K footage. So that's good for me, because then I don't have to worry about throwing in another SD card if I'm doing a doubleheader weekend. So that's the SD card. And then the camera settings that I like are, hopefully it's gonna focus. So I use this 4K 60, and unfortunately with the Hero 9, you can't do, if you do 4K 60, you're limited to the wide field of view. So if you want to have Superview, which is the widest of the wide, you need to drop down to 4K 30, which might be worth it. I'll talk about that in a second. But I like 4K 60. I think it looks smoother. Most people have a 60 hertz monitor, so it's nice to match that. And I think, it gives it a nice fluid look, especially in a fast-paced crit. So you have to do wide. Hyper smooth is it's the stabilization, so I keep that on. I don't put that on boost. Sometimes I don't know, I haven't really experimented with that a ton. So this bitrate is something that I've been messing around with, and I would actually keep this on the low or standard setting. So high, what it does, the bitrate is the amount of bits per second that the camera is going to be capturing. So a higher bitrate means a larger file. And what that is going to do is the GoPro splits your files into, they're about like 2 gigabyte chunks. So if you have the bitrate on standard, those chunks are about 8 minutes, and if you have it on high, it goes down to like 5 minutes. So you're gonna have a lot more clips to deal with, which is kind of annoying. So I would just keep that on standard. And honestly, like if I'm really looking, maybe you can see a difference in the 4K footage, but it's really splitting hairs. And then white balance, I keep to auto. I usually like it like that. I think I used to run it a little bit warmer, so the reds were up, but I think auto is fine, and I keep ISO, just the standard settings as well. And the next one that's important is the sharpness. So the sharpness, I think, is normally set to high, and what sharpness does with images is it accentuates the borders of things, and an overly sharp image is going to look funny to somebody, and the GoPro naturally is pretty sharp. So I keep this on medium. Even low it looks okay. It starts looking slightly blurry, and you might have to up the sharpness in your editing, but medium is good. And then I keep GoPro color on, because I don't really like to do any color grading or anything. I don't know how to do that. And yeah, everything else is about standard. So what this is going to do is, I think 4K is worth it, because I don't know if GoPro does like some funky compression or pixel binning or something, but when I have it on 1080 or even 1440p, I feel like the color and things are not as good. I could just be really picky and nerdy about that, but I think 4K is actually worth it. And what that's going to do, though, it's going to be hard to edit and put together. So first of all, Garmin Verb, which I use, only supports 4K 30. So maybe if you don't want to like mess around with it, it might be better just to keep the frame rate to 30 FPS, and you can use Superview if you do that. But there is a workaround. Let me know if you guys are interested. You can just Google it, actually, like Garmin Verb 4K 60 export. You have to mess around with the config file, so it's a little involved and finicky, but I've been doing that because I like the 60. I don't know, I'm a nerd. And then in editing 4K footage, the files are going to be pretty large, so that can be hard on some people's computers if you don't have like a really fast like beefy computer. It might be difficult to work with 4K files. However, I use DaVinci Resolve, and you can do this thing. I'll put the actual setting, what it's called, but you can use you can downscale the resolution in the editor, which is amazing. It makes it play really smooth. And there's other things you can do with rendering it and like render cache, but with an hour-long crit, sometimes if you do render cache, it'll end up taking up like 100 gigabytes of cache memory. So I usually try not to use that, but so I'll put up a photo of my settings maybe, but this is what I've found that works. I hope it helps you guys out. Let me know if you have any questions, because this stuff it takes some trial and error, and I've done a lot of error. So if you're interested in anything else, let me know. But thanks.